And for this example, we will keep some assumptions and we'll ignore some facts. And the first fact would be ignorance of the personal income tax. And the assumptions would be that the employer gives you a salary hike of 10% each and every year. The cost of living is to get up to 8% year on year basis. And let us consider that right now you are 30 years old and you plan to retire at 50. Okay. And that's why it leaves you with a 20 years of earning and saving on the basis of which you can actually invest. Okay. So, and after 50, you do not have a plan to work or else you want to retire. So also there would be another assumption that we are assuming that right now, for just an example, your income is around 50,000 and your expenses out of it are 30. So the balance 20,000 per month is retained in the form of hard cash only. Okay, so is that clear to each and everyone? Thank you. So, okay, now coming to the part that here you can see a table in which you can see that if you calculate your, you can say you have a 50,000 income per month. So, an yearly income would constitute to around 6 lakh of rupees. Yes. And same wise, your expenses, as I had informed you, that taking an assumption of rupees 30,000, it would go up to what 3 lakh 60,000, and the difference between both would be calculated as the cash retained. So right now we are assuming that you take that savings, that 20,000 with you, you put it for an year, that is for that accumulates to 2 lakh 40,000, and that is actually uh, keeply safe in a key, you can say in a safe, that is proof of any other theft that can happen. Okay, this is just an assumption right now. So as you can say, see that for as I had informed you that there would be a 10% hike of you for each and every year. So as you can see in the second part, like of 6 lakh 60,000. So how did it actually go up to? So it went up to, yeah. So it went up to around 6 lakh 60,000, as we can see a growth of around 10% of income. Hmm. And as I had informed you that there would be an increase in the yearly expenses, or you can say the cost of living of each person brought 8%, so that accumulates to around 28,800 rupees in the second year, considering your first year expenses at 3 lakh 60,000. So by
Uh,
calculate the difference between
are you
them,
sure?
yes,
Sorry to interrupt. Slides are not visible, sir. We
okay,
stopped at first slide.
is
We
it
can see only first slide, sir.
okay. Is it visible now, Aryan?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please zoom it a little bit.
Now,
Yes, sir.
yeah, thank you, Aryan, for informing about it. Okay, so now coming to the table again, as I had just informed you that yes, that the first year's income is 6 lakhs, as 50,000 was the monthly income, the expenses as for 12 months, and the cash returned for retained for the next 12 months. Okay, and as I just discussed that the you can see the hike in your salary or your income is around 10%, that so that accumulates to 6 lakh 60,000 in the second year, and others by 8% of their yearly expenses, that is 28,800 itself. So that the cash returned is the difference between both of them, and it is shown as 2,71,200. So doing the same, you can see that yearly on yearly basis, in the third year, you get your yearly income with a 10% hike. In the second year's income would be around 7 lakh 26,000, and the yearly expense with a hike of 8% for as 4 lakh 19,904. And the difference between both would be calculated as your cash retained. I guess that would be clear to each and everyone. So as you can see, the cash retained in this format going through till your 20th year. So now consider that you are at the age of 50, and the expense and after expenses, like deleting expenses, you get a saving of 21,15,893. Considering that you there isn't any of your expenses or increase in your expenses per year basis. So you can see it is at 17 lakh 890.693. Is it will can you all see the total amount that is shown up here? Hello, please
Yes, yes.
respond.
Yes, Ayush.
Yes, sir. Also, can you please play the PPT in full? You know, the slide point so that it will be bit bigger.
Okay, guys.
Slideshow option.
Yes. I'm actually doing that itself.
No, but we see it on a normal mode.
Okay, I'll do one thing.
Yeah. Now it's going. Yes. Thanks.
Now is it visible?
Yes. Now it's in slideshow.
Okay, thank you
Thank you,
all.
sir.
So yes, as you can now see, the total amount that is accumulated to 1 crore 78 lakh 90,000 and 693. So as you can see that before furthering, you can say going forward, you can see that there are some things that I would like to mention, that within this 20 years, you have what you have actually done. Firstly, after 20 years of your hard work, you have accumulated around 1.7 crore rupees. And since your expenses are fixed and your lifestyle has not changed over the years, you probably even suppressed your lifelong aspirations, which are a better home, a better car, or some vacations planned with your family. You have actually not gone through that only because you want to save and save a some amount after your retirement itself. Okay, so is 1.7 crores enough amount after your 50 years of age? Is it? If you can mention yes or no in the comment box. So I guess it isn't. Am I right? Yeah, you all are right. So only 1.7 crores isn't. So I can assume that this amount that I'm talking about, that is 1.7 crores, it will only go through for minimum of 8 years for you in the future. So you can consider that after your age, right now your age is 50, and plus 8 years, you will be easily be able to live your life to your full potential till only 58 years and with your financial stability itself. But what will be you will do at the age of 59? So the question arises that, so is there any way method that you can actually earn more through just investing in some stocks or on a index or by different means? Yes, there is. Okay, so the question arises, what you would do after you run out of all the money in 8 years' time? How do you fund your life? Is there a way to ensure that you collect a larger sum at the end of 20 years? Yes, there is. So now let's consider that the amount that you had in the end of your, you can say, uh, at the end of your first year, at your second year, the cash retained, as you can see in the slide itself, right? Yeah. तो अब जब जैसे हमने देखा कि अब 2,40,000 है, ठीक है, it's 2,40,000. So if I invest and say that I invest that this 2,40,000 right now after earning this much amount an year after, like I say that I got my salary on 31st December, and now my total savings on 1st January, you can say 2020, so like 2001, just consider it as an assumption, in 2001 is now 2,40,000. And now what I do on 2nd January or 1st January itself, I invest that 2,40,000 in, you can say, in different stocks, or maybe I invest in any commodity, in anything I presume right now. It could be the index itself, it could be stock market, it could be a fixed income fixed instruments, fixed deposits, it could be commodity market, it could be real estate, be it anything. Just consider that you're getting a 12% per annum profit growth in an single year. So how would you calculate the amount that you'll be getting back after the end of what, 20 years? So how you will actually calculate that? I guess each and every one has studied the concept of compound interest, right? So anyone would like to tell me what is the formula of compound interest? Anyone up here? I guess each and every one would have studied. That is just an easy, you can say the most easiest formula I've ever seen.
I guess all have forgotten.
Okay, so I'll tell you about it. So the amount is equal to principal into 1 plus I. I is denoted by the interest, that is R upon 100 to the power n. Okay, are you clear? So it is the amount, that is A, that you'll be getting after some time period. The and is equal to the principal. Principal is what? The amount you're investing at this moment itself into 1 plus R upon 100, or you can denote as at I. That is another word for that. That is just a denotation for that. Do not worry about what does I stands for. It is what? R upon 100 just. Okay. Or you can say R percent. In to the power n. Okay, so that is the formula to calculate the compounded interest of your investment that you are doing at this moment itself. So in the first case, as you can see, right, as you can see that there is 2,40,000. So just grab your calculators, do one thing, do the calculation of just for the first year, and you will be able to see that yes, you are getting the value that is given as 20,07,063 rupees. Just open your calculator, see. Right now I cannot do the whole calculation and get the answer. So I'll do what I'll do. I know the principal is 2,40,000, and after that I know 1 plus I am getting 12% per annum interest, right? So for doing that, I know that the I part that I have told you, or you can say the R upon 100 part. So the interest is what? 12 upon 100, right? So it would be accounted at 0.12. I guess that is normal calculation that each and everyone can do. So in the bracket, you will get 1.12 to the power of what would be the nth power. I am telling you it would be 19. Why? So now you will be giving the amount for 20 years. So why is it 19? Because there are two types of, you can say, compound interest. Firstly, you deposit your money in the starting of year, or you deposit your money at the end of year. But what we are doing, we are making the salary, that is actually, we are making the money in an year, and after that on 1st January 2001, we are investing that amount. Okay, so you have earned that 2,40,000, or you have saved that 2,40,000. In what time? You have saved that in the 1 year that you have earned around 6 lakhs per year. Okay, so that's why we'll be taking it as 19th power. So what we're doing, just put on your calculators, it would be just be these 1.12 to the power 19. Just easy, it would be accounted to 8.612. Okay, so the multiply just this value with your principal. What is your principal? It is 2,40,000. What do you all get? I guess you all would have gotten the answer as 20,67,062 paise, or 62 rupees 0.8. So I guess we'll just round it off to 63. So have everyone got the answer as 20 lakhs and 67,000? I guess this is the easiest calculation you can do at any point of time. I can show you that the amount I'm getting, I guess because of the background, it won't be able to see, but you just do the calculation, you'll be easily able to get it. So by doing the same for each and every year, you can see in the second time, you have an cash retained of 2,71,200. It would be the same the interest would be the same. So it would be 1.1 to the power 18 now, because now in the second year you have retained an earnings, or you have cash retained in your safety or in your bank account as 2,71,200 that you'll be investing in any investment, you can say, criteria or any investment area. So again, calculating, you will be getting 20,85,519, and doing this for like 20 years, you can see in the end, you can see the same thing, that 21,15,893 you have retained, and it is the same as 21,15,893. Why are these two same? Because at the end of your 50 years, like you were at 50, you got your savings, you saved around 21 lakhs and 15,000 893 in your account at that time, but you cannot invest it, because our assumption is that you are not earning or you're not investing after the age of 50 years. Okay, so that's why this both amounts are same. So now, as you will accumulate all these amounts that you have actually gotten after the age of 50, or at the age of 50, you would see that you have actually got 4 crores 26 lakhs 95,000 and 771. So I guess this is an amount that you can live with for a longer period of time than the amount that you had before. It is around 2.4 times itself the amount that you earned before. So I guess each and every is clear about the compounding effect of the money that you invest. Just by investing with your savings, you can see that yes, I am getting a return that is very much higher, and I can live with that after my retirement. Let's see, you are at the age of 50 itself. How will you be able to go through forward with 4 crores and 26 lakh rupees? Yes, you would be easily able to go forward with that. Minimum for 15 to 20 years, that amount would be sufficient for you. So isn't it better to invest? Yeah, please write yes or no in the comment box. Thank you all. I guess yes. So the answer to the question is yes, obviously. So these are some compelling reasons for one to invest. So what is the first reason that you should invest for? Firstly, you will be easily able to fight with the inflation. So by investing, one can deal better with the inevitable or growing cost of living, generally referred to as the inflation. Firstly, you will be easily able to grow further with investing, and you'll be easily able to cover with the inflation that will be happening. So the inflation rate that we can presume is around 6% per year, but that is just an presumption. With the effects of cash reserve ratio and the government's monetary policies, it can also change, but the assumption that will be mostly happening would be around 6% itself. One. Now coming to the second part, that is the how to create wealth. Now, through investing, you'll be easily able to create a wealth for yourself, because having around 4 crores in your hand, you can easily more invest that around you can easily invest around 50 lakhs from it in an year after your age of 50, for in a flat or in an anything else, and get a rental income from that also. So you have that amount of investment with you after the age, and because of the only factor of investing. And the third and the most, you can say, important one to me is life financial aspirations. We all want to be millionaires, or we all want to have a financial, you can say, stability with us, right? So that's why through investing, you all can easily achieve the target of financial aspiration. So this is the amount that we all got in the final as the total sum of money that will be even easily getting at the end of 50 years through that example that I showed you. So now coming to the point, the second question that arises in our minds, where to invest? ये तो हमने समझ लिया कि ठीक है इन्वेस्ट करना है, ये भी समझ आ गया कि इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के फायदे क्या होते हैं. But now coming to the main point, इन्वेस्ट कैसे करना है भाई, तरीका क्या है, यही तरीका है. First, now I will be discussing about that. So there are mainly four categories that you can invest in. The first one is the fixed income instruments. The second one is the equity. The third one is the real estate, and the fourth one is commodity market. So now discussing about the fixed income instruments, there are many fixed income instruments for you to invest. An example could be the fixed deposits and bonds that you can invest in with easy methods itself. So some fixed deposits are given by banks, some bonds are issued by governments. There are other bonds that are issued by the government related agencies like NHAI, like HUDCO, and many others. And there are some bonds issued within the fixed income instrument, which varies from 8 to 11% of fixed income that you actually invest in. So there are many fixed deposits that you can actually contact with your bank from. So that is the one you can easily invest with. Then second comes with the equity. The equity gives you an important way of trading, that is trading in BSE and NSE. These are the two biggest, you can say, indexes or the platforms that you can easily invest in. But there are other many. There are Kolkata Stock Exchange. There are other stock exchanges also. But considering these two, because these two are the number one and the second position in the India's ranking itself. Now coming to the real estate and the commodities market. So in real estate, you all know that transaction sites, apartments, and commercial buildings is the part of real estate investment. And at last, investment in the precious metals like gold, silver, or any other metal that you think is going to be an important part of the future is a part of investing in the commodities market itself. So now talking about all these four in a journal way, as I have just explained about the fixed income instruments, equity we'll be discussing forward, and now coming to real estate and the commodities market. Real estate is not too much risky in terms of my aspects, but the amount that you need to invest is very higher in terms of your other investment opportunity markets. Like you can say in fixed instruments, income instruments, you have many other plans in which you can just invest a lakh rupees, 50,000 or 10,000 itself. That is a way, that is the amount that you can easily invest in a time period itself. But in real estate, investing around 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, or investing around 60 or crore lakhs or a crores is a bigger amount to do so. You can easily earn around 15 to 20 lakhs within a time span of 5 to 10 years through real estate. But the investment, or you can say the risk is low, but the investment is really high in real estate. And commodities, there aren't much aspects, or there aren't any fundamental or technical analysis that you can actually do in terms of commodities market through for precious metals to gain the knowledge that yes, this metal or this silver or this gold will go up or not. So you can see in the time of COVID, we all can see that the gold prices have gone down. Were we aware about it? No, we weren't, but it got down, right? So that's how that's the morphine four opportunities that you have in hand, or the four categories that you can invest in. So now coming to the next part, that is NSC and BSc, that will be discussed by Mr. Aryan. Aryan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ayush sir. I am visible and audible.
Yes, Aryan, you are.
Okay. Wait. So, yeah. Uh, Hello, everyone. Good evening. So, hope you all are enjoying the learning. Okay. So, before starting my explanation, I want to tell my perspective. That's what I think. What stock market means. अगर एक वर्ड में बोलूं तो इट मीन रिस्क. अच्छा, कुछ बच्चे सोच रहे होंगे रिस्क क्यों. ओके, सो नो नीड टू स्केयर्ड अबाउट दिस. ओके, आपने सुना होगा लाला रिस्क है तो इश्क है, by हर्षद मेहता. And at the last of at the end of this webinar, you will able to relate all these things. Okay, so NSE and BSC. Yeah. National stock, national, hello, hello.
Yes, you're audible, Aaron.
Are you, sir? Someone mic is open. Just check it.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't worry, Aaron. Just continue.
okay. NSE is the biggest stock exchange in India, while BSC is the oldest stock exchange in India. The BSC was established in 1875, while the NSE was established in 1992. The benchmark index, please, this is very important line. The benchmark index for the NSE is the Nifty, and for the BSC, it is the Sensex. And in NSE, also the Nifty 50 comes. BSC promotes trading in equity, debt instruments, mutual funds, currencies, derivatives, while NSE is just a little different. Okay, NSE promotes trading equity, equity derivatives, debt and currency derivative segments. So now let's talk about the vision. The vision of the BSE is to emerge as the premium Indian stock exchange with the best in class global practice in technology, products innovation, and customer service. While NSE vision is to continue to be a leader, establish global presence, facilitate the financial well-being of people. In this, we can see, like in this line, we all of can see, there in of NSE and BSE, the perspective is different. Okay, so and the BSC census compromises of 30 companies, while the NSC compromises of 50 companies. And the website for BSC is www.bscindia.com, and for NSC is www.nscindia.com. So here is one question: can anybody tell some a few of the companies which is listed in NSC top 50 company? Anyone? Write in chat box. Okay. What about BSc? Yeah, Jishnu, yeah, you're right. So, the managing director and CEO of BSc is Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, and for NSC is Mr. Vikram Limei. And the number of listed companies, total number of companies, I'm like, don't get confused between the top 50 and 30 companies. Okay, it is the total number of companies listed in BSc and NSC. For NSC, it's 1696, and for BSc, it's 5749. Okay, both the stock both the stock exchange, National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange are important part of an Indian capital. Every day, guys, 100,000 of brokers and investors trade on these stock exchange, and both are established in Mumbai, Maharashtra under SEBI. I've said, next slide, please. So the big question: what are the things to know before investing? So, like, for me, investment is a journey. Okay, not a destination. So the first point is start now, guys. The best time to invest in stock is now. You all are youngster, right? So at this age, you want to become financially independent, want to have some source of income. So start investing some amount of your pocket money. I'm not saying invest lakh of rupees, no, but at least start with 1,000 or 500 rupees. You will learn also, and you will gain some profit. And in case if you lose also, so don't give up, guys. Stock market is not a cakewalk, buddies. Okay, you have to invest on your knowledge also. So pull up your socks and start investing. Second, draw a personal financial roadmap. Before you make any investing decision, sit down and take an honest look at your entire financial situation, especially if you have never made a financial plan before. The first step to successful investing is figuring out your goals and risk tolerance. Okay, either on your own or with the help of financial professionals. There is no guarantee, there is no guarantee that you will make money from your investment. But if you get the fact about savings and investing and follow through with an intelligent plan, definitely you will gain financial security over the years and enjoy the benefits of managing your money also. And one suggestion I would like to give: don't look for financial professional. First, try to get experience by yourself. Okay. And third, evaluate your comfort zone in taking on risk. All investment involves some degree of risk. All investment involves some degree of risk. If you intend to purchase securities such as stock, bonds, or mutual fund, it is important that you should understand before you invest that you can, if you could lose or if you could lose some money or all of your money, the reward for taking on risk is the potential of for a greater investment return. If you have a financial goal with a long-term horizon and you are likely to make more money by carefully investing in asset category like cash equivalent, and on the other hand, investing solely in the cash investment may be appropriate for the short-term financial goal. The principal concern for individual investing in cash equivalent is financial inflation risk, which is the risk that inflation will outpace and return over time. And the last, it is the most important point. Please listen it very carefully. Okay, research the market, guys. So many of you are here जो दोस्त की बात सुन लेते हैं और किसी की बात सुन के इन्वेस्ट कर देते हैं, इस पे पैसे लगा लो, उस पे पैसे लगा लो. No, guys, be your own learner. Okay, try to learn, try to analyze the market. If you are a beginner, what I said, try to invest on your knowledge. Okay, so research the market. It is critical to make time to research what factors may have impact on your investment so you can make informed decision. Understanding what's going on in the market domestically, globally is important, and it may have an impact on your investment. This can include such as growth, unemployment rate, interest rate, and inflation, and even political events also. So overall, I want to say that make an appetite to bear a risk, and slowly you will grow, and maybe your appetite can change into earning profit. Okay. So, uh, the father of stock market, maybe like you all know, who is the like father or godfather of stock market, share market. Are you sir?
I guess we all know who is he. As you can see in the slide, it is Mr. Warren Buffett.
So guys, it is a very important motivational line. First, never lose money, and rule number two, never forget rule number one. Okay, keep this line in mind, and then start investing.
Thank you, Aryan, for telling us about what NSE and BSE is and how much companies and what actually NSE and BSE does. So now coming to what is actually a stock market. So ये सबसे बड़ा सवाल है कि हम यहाँ पे बेसिक ऑफ स्टॉक मार्केट पढ़ने तो आए, समझने तो आए कि हाँ व्हाट इज एक्चुअली बेसिक ऑफ स्टॉक मार्केट, बट एक्चुअली व्हाट इज इट. सो स्टॉक मार्केट इज वेयर एवरीवन वांट्स टू ट्रांजैक्ट इन शेयर्स गो टू. अगर मेरे को कोई शेयर खरीदना है, मुझे पता है ठीक है कि आई नो दैट देयर आर 4 टाइप्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग एंड आई हैव टू डू सम एसेट allocation of myself, and right now I am at the age of 30. So I know that I'll be in a job and I will earn about 50,000 as we have discussed. So I know that I can take risk and earn more, because more the risk, more is your return, right? So that's why I chose the risky one, which is your stock market. Guys, stock market is only risky until unless there is one thing. There is only one thing, that if you are aware about its fundamentals, or if you're aware about its technical analysis or its technicals, or you're aware about the changes in the price, you will be easily able to make money in stock market without fearing about anything. And guys, we all have our poll with us here itself, so kindly fill up the poll.
Everybody kindly go on to the poll section. We are running a poll. Please cast your polls, whichever you find suitable.
So by the time all are filling up the polls, I guess we could go forward with it. Yes. So I guess many people would have gone through the poll itself. So now coming back to the main point, what is actually stock market, right? So the stock market is one thing where people come to buy and sell their stocks of different companies, or if they want to go and start buying slots in the Nifty 50 or the BSE index of our NSE and BSE stock exchanges. So I guess this was actually about the stock market. Hmm? So now coming to the four financial intermediaries that are linked with the stock market itself. So the four financial intermediaries are the stockbroker, or the, you can say, depository, and the depository participants are the banks, and the NSCCL and the ICCL. So the NSCCL stands for National Security Clearing Corporation Limited, and the ICCL stands for International Corporation Clearing Corporation Limited. So what are these both, and what does these two actually do? So NSE is a part of the National Stock Exchange, that is your, which has one thing, which which index has Nifty 50, right? So you can say that Nifty 50 is connected to NSE, and NSE is a subsidiary, or you can say, sorry, NSCCL is a subsidiary of NSE itself, which actually what does actually. So these two actually does is what they go out there, they handle your transactions so that there isn't any theft, or there isn't any back end problems in terms of your transactions happening in your account, in your demat account. So that's why is the role of NSCL for NSC, and for I, and the role of ICCL is for BSC, which is the same role for the clearing of your transactions in terms of your monies at all points of times. So that was the role of NSCL and the ICCL. So now coming to the main point, or the first and the most important financial subsidiary, that is the financial or the stock broker. So actually, who is the stockbroker, and like why is it the most important, or the one that you should always know about? So a stockbroker is a corporate entity registered as a trading member with the stock exchange that holds a stockbroker license. They cooperate under the guidance prescribed by the SEBI, and a stockbroker is your gateway to stock exchanges. To begin with, you need to open something called a trading account or a demat account with the broker who meets your requirements. Okay. So there are few examples of the top 10 stockbrokers in the industry right now. So the top 10 stockbrokers are Sher Khan, Motilal Oswal, Zerodha, Upstock, ICC, Direct Insect, ISL, and Angel Broking, and many more. HDFC Securities also. So there are a lot of stockbrokers. So here the question arises: which stockbroker to select? right? So that is the question that each and every one would be actually.
Sir, your mic, I think.
So now can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. So as I just told you, the stockbroker. So what is actually a stockbroker? So the stockbroker is someone who is the most probably one of the most important financial intermediary, and that need you to know. A stockbroker is a corporate entity which is registered under a trading number or with an stock exchange. So it has to have a license with the different stock exchanges. So I say that there is a stock exchange stock broker known as Zerodha. So Zerodha should have a license from the stock exchange of, you can say, BSC or NSC, or if they have the capacity to, or if they want to go to other stock exchanges that are KSC, Kolkata stock exchanges. There are some more stock exchanges, but we'll be mostly talking about these two itself. And now coming to the more other parts, that how to select a stock broker. So the stock broker is, so sorry, a stockbroker is actually an entity which helps you, is a mediatory between the stock exchange and you. You give orders or you place order on to buy a stock, or to buy a slot of Nifty 50 or your, you can say, BSE index, and you place an order to your stockbroker. Your stockbroker can be Zerodha or Upstock, any person or any, sorry, entity. So how you actually select it? Okay, you can select it through different plans. As you go out there, you see that okay, which plans are provided by different stockbrokers. The plans are mostly similar, but go on to the terms and conditions. You can say plans. Go on to the plans that providing. Go on to the percentage they are would be asking you for each and every transaction. So nowadays, right now, Zerodha and I know about the Upstock also, that these two are providing a plan of that there will be only charging around 15 to 20 rupees per transaction from you in your, you can say, accounts itself, in your demat account. So that is one plan that is really better for you. But there are other plans also which actually provides you with another aspects. Those plans are that they'll be saying that we'll be only charging you a commission of 0.02% per your transaction. You say yes, if I do a, you can say, transaction of, you can say, a lakh, I am only paying 200 rupees. That is okay for me. No, but if within you see that if you choose another, you can say, plan which actually only transacts you around 15 to 20,000, sorry, 15 to 20 rupees for every 20 to 30,000 rupees. So what would it actually do? It would only cost you around 50 rupees for a transaction of a rupee of 1 lakh. So go see out there that what plans are there. Do not think that yes, I need to invest, so I'll do go out there and take any stockbroker I want to, and I wish to go forward with that. No, do a research about that also. Do the see the plans that they are providing. With that plans itself, you'll be easily able to go out there and choose the best one suitable for you. Okay, so that was about the stockbroker itself. So now coming about the banks and the depositories. So what is the difference between the banks and the depositories? So these two are somewhat same, but have, you can say, the operations of both are different. So now talking about, you can say, a bank and a depository. So yeah, as you can see, the first function here, it is what holds funds in an account, and the second for depository is holds securities in another account. Okay, so what is the main difference between them? So now talking about the bank, bank also provides you interest, depository doesn't. That is the one thing that is the most big difference between them. But if you see that, if anyone can tell me what is the actually the rate the bank provides us for within a year, any guesses in the chat box itself? that you can tell me that okay, a bank or any bank provides us with and within a savings account an interest of 5%, 6%, 8%, 2%. So any interest you can tell me which you have in knowledge. Anyone? Yes. Okay. 2%. Yeah. No. Yeah. 2% is also an answer, but others. I can see there are 50 members in the meeting, and I can only see two responses till now. Kindly, at least answer around 10 people should minimum answer. Okay, 5%, 5%. Okay, yes, you all are approximately right. Yes, Sanskar, you are also approximately right. So the average interest that a bank provides you is around 4.67%. Okay, and as we have already discussed that if we see for year, each and every year, there's minimum an inflation rate of 6% itself, right? And we are just but we are saying that other things concept that the deflation or other things concept you can say are constant, or we aren't saying that this is a pandemic situation. We are just considering an example that if everything goes well, there will be a minimum of 6% of inflation itself. So as you can see that putting your money in your bank account gives you an interest of around 5%, and there's an inflation of an in a year of 6%. So are you making money in putting your money in the bank, or you are giving that 1% to the bank itself? Yes, you are giving that 1% to the bank itself. Most of us do not realize that actually. That is the security, or that is one thing that the banks actually get in response of depositing money itself. They can actually invest your money itself in the outer market, in stock exchanges also. Banks also does that. But one thing is this important thing, that this is another way of making an income for the bank through inflationary rates also. So that was a important point I wanted to tell you all. So now coming back to the difference between bank and a depository. So a bank also transfers funds between accounts on the instruction of the account holder, and the same is done by depository. But the depository transfer the securities with the instruction of the account holder. Another difference could be facilitate transfers without having to handle money, and in depository it is the same, but in depository it transfers the ownership of one stock or one investment bond, or any you can say investment that you do in your stock exchange, or in your stock exchange itself. It transfers that ownership from you to other, or from some other person to you itself. And the last, that is the most important you can say function of bank and depository. In bank it safe keeps the money, and in depository it safe keeps the securities itself. So now coming to the next point, that is SEBI, that would be discussed by Mr. Aryan, please continue.
Yes, Ayush, thank you. So, SEBI, the regulator, the boss, you can say in short form. Okay. So, the Securities and Exchange Board of India was officially appointed as the authority for regulating the financial market in India on 12th April 1988. It had no control over anything, but later, in 1992, it was declared an autonomous body with legal powers. SEBI plays an important role like in regulating the securities market of India. Thereby, it is important to know the purpose and objective of SEBI. The headquarters is located in the business district of Bandra complex in Mumbai, and it has some regional offices in New Delhi, Kolkata, and all. So, most important question: why SEBI was formed? So, anyone, any idea why SEBI was formed and anything? All right. So, and during 1980s, capital market were emerging at the new sensation among the individuals of India. Many malpractices started taking place, such as unofficial style merchant bankers, unofficial private placement, rigging of prices, non-adherence of provision of the Companies Act, violation of rules and regulation of stock exchanges, and delay in delivery of shares. etc. यहाँ हम देखें तो कोई रूल नहीं था, सब लोग अपने मन का करते थे और इम्प्रॉपर इलीगल एक्शन ये सब चीजें लोगों में था. And due to these malpractices, people started losing confidence in the stock market. The government felt a sudden need to set up an authority to regulate the working and reduce these practices. As a result, the government came up with the establishment of SEBI. Okay, so the SEBI consists of 9 members. ठीक है, ये थोड़ा जरूरी है, ध्यान से सुनिएगा सब लोग. The SEBI board consists of 9 members, one chairman appointed by the Government of India, 2 members who are officers from Union Finance Minister, 1 member from the RBI, and 5 members appointed by the Union Government of India. Now, the power of SEBI, the most important thing. This is also important. Okay, when it comes to stock exchange, SEBI has the power to regulate and approve any law related to function in the stock exchange. It has the power to access the books of record and account from the stock exchanges, and it can arrange period checks and returns into the working of the stock exchange. And it can also conduct hearing and pass judgment if there are any wrong decision and any wrong scam. Okay. And when it comes to the treatment of companies, it has power to get company listed and delisted from any stock in the country. Okay, this shows the SEBI is the regulator boss, and that's all. Like SEBI is a very deep topic, but it was all the basic term you need to know. Next slide, also. So the question come: what caused stock price to change? Anyone? Attempt the factors. Okay, संस्कार, good. एक बार में आपने एक पंच दे दिया, ठीक है. Okay. So, if there is high demand, it will pull the price, and as a result, supply will also increase. Let's understand with the help of. Suppose एक घर है, उसकी नीलामी चल रही है. आप वहां पहुंचते हो, देखते हो घर एक ही है बट लेने वाले 10 हैं. ओके, हाउस लाइक वी सी कि देयर आर 10 पीपल्स. ओके, तो आप देख सकते हैं कि सप्लाई कम है, डिमांड ज्यादा है, इसीलिए घर की बोली लगेगी, एंड जो उस घर का ज्यादा प्राइस देगा हम उस प्राइस पर घर बेच देंगे. नाउ इन सेकेंड केस, if घर 10 है, लेने वाला एक है, तो यहाँ सप्लाई ज्यादा है, डिमांड कम है, तो जो घर का बेस प्राइस होगा या फिर जो सबसे लो प्राइस पे देगा, जो बायर होगा उससे लो प्राइस पे खरीद लेगा. इनडायरेक्टली प्राइस पे इफेक्ट हुआ. सिंपली बोलूं तो जब डिमांड ज्यादा होती है तो सप्लाई कम होती है, तो प्राइस ज्यादा बढ़ता है. अगर सप्लाई ज्यादा है, डिमांड कम है, तो प्राइस गिरेगा. एंड इन शेयर मार्केट ये कैसे वर्क करता है? इट इज सो सिंपल. जब शेयर बेचने वाले ज्यादा होते हैं, खरीदने वाले कम होते हैं, तब शेयर बेचने वाले अपना शेयर कम प्राइस पर बेच देते हैं. एंड इन सेकेंड केस, शेयर बेचने वाले कम होते हैं एंड खरीदने वाले ज्यादा होते हैं, तब शेयर खरीदने वाले ज्यादा प्राइस देने को रेडी हो जाते हैं, तब वो शेयर बेच देते हैं. एंड जब किसी कंपनी में प्रॉब्लम होती है, तब उस कंपनी में बायर कम हो जाते हैं, जिसकी वजह से उसके स्टॉक प्राइस पर भी इफेक्ट पड़ता है. एंड हियर वी कैन सी द सेंटिमेंट. एंड I want to ask one question. Recently, there was a sentiment. What happened in like what lower the stock of a company? Can you name that? It was a big sentiment. Though totally it was depend on a sentiment. A man kept the bottle from here to here. Can you guess? या सभी कोका कोला काफी लॉस हो गया था उन्हें. ग्रेट. सो इन्वेस्टर्स का फंडामेंटल देखकर, इन्वेस्टर जो होते हैं कंपनी का फंडामेंटल देखकर शेयर खरीदते हैं बेचते हैं. ट्रेडर शेयर का प्राइस चार्ट देखकर खरीदते बेचते हैं. कोई न्यूज के बेसिस पर बाई सेल करता है, तो कुछ सेंटिमेंट या हर्ड मेंटालिटी के बेसिस पर कर लेते हैं. ओके. And also, company stock prices and stock market in general can be affected by world events such as war and civil unrest, natural disaster, and terrorism. This influence can be direct and indirect, and they can often occur in chain reactions. Next slide, Aisha. Okay, so where do you fit in? So this is also an important part. Please listen in very carefully. Where do you fit in? First, day trader. Day trader क्या होता है? A day trader initiate and close the position during the day. He does not carry forward his position. He is a risk averse and does not like taking overnight risk. For example, he would buy 100 share of Reliance at 2,1212 rupees at 9:15 a.m. and sell it at, he buys at 2212 and sell it at 2220 at 3:20 p.m. making a profit of 800. And in this kind of trader generally focus on buying 5 to 6 stock per day. That's why they're a day trader. They start trading when the market open, and they close trading before the market close. Now the second, a type of day trader, he usually trades very large quantity of stock, okay, and holds the stock for very less time with an intention to make a small but quick profit. ये भी थोड़ा डे ट्रेडर जैसा होता है, बट इसके इंटेंशन थोड़ा अलग होते हैं. थोड़ा अपन को फुल इज्जत चाहिए वाला जैसा होता है. ठीक है. फॉर एग्जांपल, he would buy 10,000 share of Reliance of rupees 2212, okay, 2212 at 9:15 and sell it at 2212.1 at 9:16. He ends up making 1,000 profit in this trade. In a typical day, he would have placed many such trades. As you may have noticed, a scalp trader is highly risk averse. Okay. And the third, swing trader. A swing trader hold on to his trade for slightly longer time duration, and the duration can run into anywhere between a few days to week. Generally, it's only a few days out of a week. It's typically more open to taking risks. Okay. You don't drink Mountain Dew, डर खा के जीते. So, and for example of swing trader, he would buy 100 share of Reliance at 2212 on 12 June 2021 and sell it at 2214 on 19 June. So you can see the gap of 6 days. Okay. Now, growth investor. The objective here is to identify companies which are expected to grow significantly because of emerging industry and macro trends. A classic example in the Indian context would be buying Hindustan Unilever, Infosys, Gillette India back. This company witnessed huge growth because of the change in the industry landscape, thereby creating a massive wealth for its shareholder. And the last, value investor. The objective here is to identify good companies irrespective of whether they are in growth phase or mature phase, but beaten down significantly due to the short-term market sentiment. Okay guys, short-term market sentiment, thereby making a great value buy. An example of this recent time or previous time, whatever you can say, company L&T, I think it is an infotech company. Due to the short negative sentiment, L&T was beaten down significantly around August, September, maybe, and the stock price collapsed at 690 all the way from 1200. The stock price collapsed to 690 all the way from 1200. Okay. Uh, a company like L&T is perceived as cheap and therefore a great value pick. Eventually, it did pay off as the stock price is scaled back to 1440 around May after 1 year. And some of the okay, this was the all about the where did you fit in. So, what kind of market participant would you like to be? You can tell your suggestion and some of the really famous investor in world class you have seen, and for me it's only on Warren Buffett. So that's all.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for telling us about where can we actually fit in, as you can say, an
Sir, one
investor
question.
itself.
What do you think? Where did you fit in?
Yes,
Hello.
someone had a question.
Yes, sir. I had a question. Aryan. Itself.
Yes.
Sir, I had a question. Where did you fit in? What do you think?
Sorry. Acha, where do I actually stand? So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll say that yes, I am a growth investor itself, and sometimes I do swing trading also, but that is a little bit risky. So, I try to not indulge in that. But if I see an opportunity, why not grab it, right? So
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
all.
I can myself say as a growth investor, but in terms of the opportunities, I am sometimes a swing trader also.
Okay, so you all are like a investor or a new investor. So I think growth in you all will be fit in growth investor. Okay, don't go for any of the four. If you are if you have experience of here, then you can opt for any of the five. But for now, if you are planning to invest or you are like interested in investing, to be a growth investor. First analyze the market, then start investing. Okay, and guys, one more thing: don't इन्वेस्ट बाय द हर्ड मेंटेलिटी कि दोस्त ने रिलायंस का शेयर लिया तो मैं भी शेयर कर दूं, खरीद लूं. ठीक है, पहले ट्राई टू एनालाइज द मार्केट. एज आई सेड, इन्वेस्ट ऑन योर नॉलेज. ओके, इट विल बी बेटर फॉर यू आल्सो. यस, आयुष सर, यू कैन टेक ऑन.
Thank you, Aaron. So now coming to the part of what should be a investing strategy. So this is the most important thing that you should all be aware of. That how should we actually invest, and like we have already discussed that how actually investing, or there are some points that you should keep note of what should be some points about before investing in anything. So you should have a strategy before investing at in any or any stock or in any index itself. So the strategies firstly should be linked to how much money you have with your savings and how much risk you can take. So as you can see, different investors have different strategies. Some look for undervalued stock, some for overvalued stocks, okay, and some for growth potential stocks also. The strategy could be focused on the long term or the short term. Be more risky or less risky. Whatever your investment strategy is, should be able to articulate to these attributes itself. So I would like to tell you that firstly, asset allocation is the most important thing you actually need to do. That I, if I say that I have around 2 lakh of rupees that I have to spend or I have to invest, okay. So I'm investing. I'm not investing that 2 lakh rupees in a single stock. Never invest the total money in in a single or in a particular stock itself. You have to diversify your investments at the moment itself. Hmm. Right? So how you have to do that? You can do like that. That yes. So this 20,000 is for IOC, that is Indian Oil Corporation. This 40,000 is for, you can say, Reliance, because Reliance is an large cap fund, and it cannot be bought within a span, or it cannot be bought with maximum 10 to 20 shares, because the range for it is minimum 3,000 you have to pay to buy it. So by buying 20 shares, it would be accounted to around 60,000 rupees. So investing only 60,000 rupees in a particular stock is also a risky thing. So that you can actually invest with your asset allocation and divide your money for different stocks, so that if any stock or if there is any loss in your particular stock that you invested in, there will be some stock that would even give you profit, so that that amount, that loss can be easily diversified within your portfolio. So I guess you are aware about the strategies that you can actually apply, and you have to be aware about the asset allocation. That is the most important thing you all should be clear with. So now coming to how to calculate returns. So there are two methods of calculating returns. The first is the absolute return. So in this return that you trade or invest has generated in absolute terms. Okay. So for an absolute return, you have a question, or if you invest and in any of the stock or in any of the index, and if you invest for less than year, absolute return can easily be a relativity concept for you, and you can easily calculate the absolute return. But in terms of the investment, which is more than for an year, you have to calculate the compounded annual growth rate, that is CAGR, an absolute return that can be misleading if you want to compare with two investments. Yes, so that's why compound annual growth is here, so that you can easily compare two investments without being any problem between comparing those. So how can you actually invest, or you can actually calculate the absolute return that you'll be getting within a time span of an year? So the formula for same is ending value upon starting value minus 1 into 100. Okay. So as you can see, if I give you an example, so let's consider that right now you have you earlier had bought a stock of 75 rupees that was of Infosys. Infosys isn't at 75. We are just considering, and you can say a hypothetical situation. So if you consider that you started a period value at 75, and after a span of an year you sold it for around 125, so what would be your absolute return? It would be 125 upon 75 minus 1 into 100, so which would be around 50 upon 75 to the power 200, which would actually give you the return that will be you have earned in a span of a month, which would be around 66.6% itself. Now coming to the compound annual growth rate. So for different years, you can easily calculate it. So the formula for that is the ending value upon the beginning value. It was same as before absolute return, but in that you go forward with that the ending value upon the beginning value has a value upwarded, that is 1 upon number of years, so that you can easily compare within two stocks. So let's calculate it with the same example that we discussed right now. Okay, so the formula to do it would be really easy for you. Okay, how you can actually do it? You can do it like so, as I explained you that the ending value for your stock is 125, right, and the beginning value for your stock is 75. And if add another thing, that if I say that after, you can say, 3 years, the stock price was 125 itself.
They fit in growth investor. Okay, don't go for any of the four. If you are if you have experience of here, then you can opt for any of the five. But for now, if you are planning to invest, or you are like interested in investing, to be a growth investor, first analyze the market, then start investing. Okay. And guys, one more thing, don't इन्वेस्ट बाय द हर्ड मेंटेलिटी कि दोस्त ने रिलायंस का शेयर लिया तो मैं भी शेयर कर दूं, खरीद लो, ठीक है. पहले ट्राई टू एनालाइज द मार्केट. एज आई सेड, invest on your knowledge. Okay, it will be better for you also. Yes, Ayush sir, you can take on.
Thank you, Aaron. So now coming to the part of what should be your investing strategy. So this is the most important thing that you should all be aware of. That how should you actually invest, and like we have already discussed that how actually investing, or there are some points that you should keep note of, what should be some points about before investing in anything. So you should have a strategy before investing at in any stock or in any index itself. So the strategies firstly should be linked to how much money you have with your savings and how much risk you can take. So as you can see, different investors have different strategies. Some look for undervalued stock, some for overvalued stocks, okay, and some for growth potential stocks also. The strategy could be focused on the long term or the short term, be more risky or less risky. Whatever your investment strategies should be able to articulate to these attributes itself. So I would like to tell you that firstly, asset allocation is the most important thing you actually need to do. That if I say that I have around 2 lakh of rupees that I have to spend or I have to invest, okay. So I'm investing. I'm not investing that 2 lakh rupees in a single stock. Never invest your total money in in a single or in a particular stock itself. You have to diversify your investments at the moment itself. Hmm. Right? So how you have to do that? You can do like that. That yes. So this 20,000 is for IOC, that is Indian Oil Corporation. This 40,000 is for, you can say, Reliance, because Reliance is a large cap fund, and it cannot be bought within a span, or it cannot be bought with maximum 10 to 20 shares, because the range for it is minimum 3,000 you have to pay to buy it. So but buying 20 shares, it would be accounted to around 60,000 rupees. So investing only 60,000 rupees in a particular stock is also a risky thing. So that you can actually invest with your asset allocation and divide your money for different stocks, so that if any stock or if there is any loss in your particular stock that you invested in, there will be some stock that would even give you profit, so that that amount, that loss can be easily diversified within your portfolio. So I guess you are aware about the strategies that you can actually apply, and you have to be aware about the asset allocation. That is the most important thing you all should be clear with. So now coming to how to calculate returns. So there are two methods of calculating returns. The first is the absolute return. So in this return that you trade or invest has generated in absolute terms. Okay. So for an absolute return, you have a question, or if you invest and in any of the stock or in any of the index, and if you invest for less than year, absolute return can easily be a relativity concept for you, and you can easily calculate the absolute return. But in terms of the investment, which is more than for an year, you have to calculate the compounded annual growth rate, that is CAGR, and absolute return that can be misleading if you want to compare with two investments. Yes, so that's why compound annual growth is here, so that you can easily compare two investments without being any problem between comparing those. So how can you actually invest, or you can actually calculate the absolute return that you'll be getting within a time span of an year? So the formula for same is ending value upon starting value minus 1 into 100. Okay. So as you can see, if I give you an example, so let's consider that right now you have you earlier had bought a stock of 75 rupees that was of Infosys. Infosys isn't at 75. We are just considering, and you can say a hypothetical situation. So if you consider that you started a period value at 75, and after a span of an year you sold it for around 125, so what would be your absolute return? It would be 125 upon 75 minus 1 into 100, so which would be around 50 upon 75 to the power 200, which would actually give you the return that will be you have earned in a span of a month, which would be around 66.6% itself. Now coming to the compound annual growth rate. So for different years, you can easily calculate it. So the formula for that is the ending value upon the beginning value was same as before absolute return, but in that you go forward with that the ending value upon the beginning value has a value upwarded, that is 1 upon number of years, so that you can easily compare within two stocks. So let's calculate it with the same example that we discussed right now. Okay. So the formula to do it would be really easy for you. Okay. How you can actually do it? you can do it like so. As I explained you that the ending value for your stock is 125, right, and the beginning value for your stock is 75. And if add another thing, that if I say that after, you can say, 3 years, the stock price was 125 itself. So how would be the calculation done? It would be very easy for you. How? You would be just doing 125 divided by 75, that is 5 by 3, or you can say 1.667. Okay, that is the value that you get after dividing both of them. Okay, and after doing that, you know that the power you have 1 by 3. So as I have just told you that the number of years, considering as a 3 years, you will get the number of years is 1 by 3. So as we know, 1 by 3 is nothing but 0.33% of any number, right, of 1 itself. So if we put it with, and you can say, multiple of 0.33, we get 1.8, and 1.18, and after minus 1 we can actually get 18.36% itself, in after multiplying it with that. So you can say that after 3 years, your you can compound annual growth rate is 18.56, and for an year of calculation with your absolute return, it is 66.6% divided by 3, that is around 22.2%. So that how is this difference? So with absolute return, you do not consider many factors, that there can be other factors in calculating returns also. So there's a disadvantage of absolute return if you calculate in terms of other or many years. But if you calculate it within for an year span, it is well good. You can actually calculate with that. But if you are calculating for more than an year span, you should actually calculate, and you can actually compare two investments with your CAGR, that is compound annual growth rate. I guess each and everyone is aware about that now. Kindly say yes or no in the chat box. Thank you, guys. So now coming to the inspiring line of Warren Buffett again. So okay, so what Warren Buffett actually says, the stock market is a no call strike zone. You don't have to swing at every time. You can wait for your pitch. So by this he means that you can actually wait for the particular stock that you are aware about, that you have knowledge about, or the particular company that you are aware about, that this company will definitely, or you have checked the fundamentals and technical of both of that company itself, and you are sure that the company price will go on. It isn't compulsory that you need to invest from today itself in the shares that are in the Nifty 50 or the or the Sensex. It isn't compulsory. You can wait for your wish. You have to patience. You have to have patience in before investing in stock market, because investing or making money isn't a work of a day. It isn't a work of a week. It isn't a work of a year. It involves a time span of minimum 5 to 10 years to gain a lot money that we have actually seen within our eyes today itself. So now coming to the last presentation of the day, that is last slide of the day, that is the commonly used jargons. So the first jargon I'll be telling you about is the bull market. So what does actually bull market mean? Bull market is one thing that each and everyone knows about. So the bull market defines at if a player plays long in his trading aspects. So what does long actually means? So I'll just give an example, that as I had just discussed about the example of, like, say, there's an Infosys company whose share price is 75. That is just an assumption. Okay. It is 75, and it reaches to 125. So right now I'm playing long. I am aspiring ki ha, that the share should go long. The share price has to grow up itself so that I can actually make money from it. So the people who want the share price to go up itself are the ones who participate in the bull market itself. And the second is the bear market. So bear market is just opposite of the bull market. In this, people play short, and the people only pay or play within a time span of a very short period. In this, people do intraday transaction. In this, people play short. And in short transactions, you need to know one thing, that in short transactions, the risk is very high and the return is very low. Okay, so if you want to earn within you have to, if you want to earn within a day itself, you need to invest a lot in the market to get the profit that you need itself. So the people who do short transactions and the people who actually participate in the intraday transactions, or who want the share price of particular stock to go down and then buy back the stock and make a earning out of it, are the people who participate in the bear market. The trend. So, as we all have heard about the herd mentality by Mr. Aryan. So, trend. So, you need to follow the trend. That what is the trend? You need to study the market. So, trend is actually nothing else but studying the market and what is actually going on to the market. So, as I have myself gone through a lot of stocks right now. As I just from the past year, I saw that Tata Motors was a company whose stock price was around 300 to 350. It always went to below at around two around 303, 305, and it went up to 350, sometimes 340, and the you can see the high of that stock was 300, was between 340 to 350, and the low was around 300 to 305 itself. But in this pandemic, or within a time span of just a month, I just saw that yes, the trend is not always right. You also have to be aware about the market itself. So now you can see, if you want to check the stock price of Tata Motors, you go onto your stockbroker account, or you can actually go to different websites, that is Money Control itself. You can go on other website also. We will mention the website's name in the last also, don't worry about it. And so that, so you can go and check it out. Right now the stock price would be around 289 or 290 itself. So yes, we can say or 290 it is something around that only, just 1 or 2 rupees less than 300. So if you see that the trend is somewhere around the price, but you also should be aware about the facts of the company itself. So just now Tata Motors has started with another strategy. That's why, because of the strategy, people have actually bought or sold more of the shares of the company. That's why, the because of the more supply and the less demand of the stock price has gone low. So we have just studied about what changes, or what makes the market, or what changes the stock price of a particular company. So I guess trend is actually understood to each and everyone. Please write a yes or no in the in the chat box. So yes, I guess most of the people have gone through and are aware about what is actually trend. So now coming to the next part, face value of a stock. So what is actually the face value of a stock? So face value of a stock is actually, it is a jargon that is not mostly used, but but it is a knowledge that you should be aware about. So in terms of dividends, in terms of giving a stock splits or giving bonuses, this face value of a stock is very important. So what is the actually the face value of the stock? So you can see what the face value of any stock is. So for Infosys it is 5, for Tata Motors it is 10. You can say the you can see the what is the face value and on different sites, that is Money Control, that is your stockbrokers accounts also, that is not an issue. But why is this value so low? Because this is the value at which the stock was initially priced at. And face value of a stock is important when you see to dividends. Like if I say that the face value of, you can say, Infosys is 5, and the dividend that the Infosys company is giving to per share to each of its shareholders is 69. So what is the dividend yield that the company is providing to the stock holders of the company? It is around 15,000% itself. So why is it that? Because so it is to show that yes, the dividend yield or the growth aspect of the company is much higher than it is actually presumed. So now coming to two others, what is 52-week high low and what is OHLC? So 52 week high low. As you can see, 52 weeks. What does 52 weeks account for? 52 weeks होते क्या हैं? What is the other word to for 52 weeks? एक साल में कितने ईयर होते हैं? बिल्कुल से राइट, वेरी राइट समीर. 52 weeks is an year. So here we see that within a span of an year, what is the highest value of a stock and what is the lowest value of that particular stock itself. So for the higher value of that stock, it is 52 weeks. So you can, as I can say, for let's say Reliance, for you can go check in your, you can say, stockbroking accounts on Money Control itself. You can see what is the high and low of the stock, what is the stock price that is gone the highest and what is the lowest itself. So how can you relate it with that? So you can see right now Nifty 50 is at its highest with, compared to the 52-week high and low. It is around 16,200 something, but it has only gone to 16,300. So it is nearly at its highest point itself. So by this, you can get to know that yes, the growth potential of that company has come to its previous growth, highest growth potential or not. Yes, it has, but it can be affected by many other factors, but you need to see that this factor also before investing in any other stock. So if you see that the stock price is lowest to its 52 weeks, so you should be aware that is that company going through bankruptcy or is that company in huge losses or not. Or you can see that yes, this company has fallen, but there's an amazing news about the company, so that yes, you are aware about the growth of the company, and so that through that you can have a decision to invest or not. So I guess I'm have told you each and everything about 52-week high and low. Now coming to the last jargon of the webinar, that is OHLC. OHLC stands for open, high, low, and close. High and low, you all have got to know what is actually high and low stands for. But for this OHLC here, the high low is for a particular day also. In the stockbroker accounts, there is two segments of high and low. First is 52-week high and low, and the second is your daily high and low. So I can say I've invested in a stock or in a company that is HT Media, and today its highest was around 29.8 and its lowest was, I can say, 28.7. So you can see that in days also, in today itself, what was the highest price that the company stock had was, and what was the lowest price the company had. So that is how you can actually get to know that what is the high and low of the particular day and what is the open and close. So open is the stock price at which in at the day, like if it is Tuesday today, if it is so now it is Wednesday tomorrow. So on Wednesday at 9 o'clock, the starting price of the stock is called the open, and the closing price of today at 3 p.m. is the close that you actually see in your stockbroking accounts. So I guess that is uh, all about the basic of stock markets. Now we'll be opening for the Q&A session and we'll be sharing a quiz form with you. It is just 15 small open MCQ questions. If you answered more than average right, that is around 9 right, you will be getting another extra certificate of merit from the company itself, which will be illustrating your marks itself in that also. So guys, go grab this opportunity that we have provided you. We'll be sharing the link within a few minutes. Firstly, we'll be going for the Q&A round. So I guess people can raise their hands for the question, and one by one, we'll be entertaining each and every question. So, guys, the form is live in the chat box itself. Go through the form and see what actually the form is all about. Yes, Utkala, do you had a question? Did you have a question? Guys, I know this is a lot to take at once, but I guess you all would have many questions in your mind that what is stock market all about, and how should we proceed with our investments? Is it safe to invest or not? So guys, please come out with your questions, because without asking questions you won't get to know the answers, and without getting to know the answers, achieving financial stability is just next to impossible. Okay, Alpana, I guess your question is a very nice question. So, can you tell me long-term investment of money in shares or short-term investment in shares are better? So, Apala, firstly, it is also about you and how much knowledge you have right now. So, if you do not have too much knowledge about the fact itself, so you can do one thing, that you should actually go for the long-term investment, because the risk is lower in that, and also the, you can say, the growth or the return would be higher in terms of the month basis or for the upcoming years itself. So we can actually say that if you invest in Reliance for right now, it will definitely give you a growth within the next 5 years. So for long term, the investment is the best opportunity in stock markets. For short term, you have to have the knowledge, you should know the time of entrance, and you should, the one important thing is at what time you should exit the market. Most people know at the know how to enter or what time they want to enter the market, but they are not able to exit the market on time, and that's why most of the people make losses in the market also, because there is a particular time that you have to exit a stock itself. Because if you're going into losses, or if you are buying the stock at its highest value, you will definitely make a loss in the market as per for that particular company's share price. So I prefer long, you can say, the long term investment of money in shares. But if you have proper knowledge and you actually have, you can say, the same idea or about the stock market as a market participant has or an influencer has, then you can actually go up and do short term investment in shares also. I guess I have cleared your question, Alpana, Alina. Yes, sorry. Anyone else?
Sanskar is having a question. Can an individual operate more than one demat account with different brokers?
Yes, Sanskar, you actually can, but we do not suggest that because, firstly, your private details, your bank account details, your PAN card, your Aadhaar card is necessary to open a bank account. So we do not prefer to have many demat account. I myself have two, but I'm not wanting to go to the third one itself. I want itself because another Kotak is like offering me a better, you can say, plan. But I am scared that I shouldn't be go for three accounts because handling three accounts at the same time is a problem itself. So I would suggest that you can open as many as accounts you want. You can open four demat accounts, five demat accounts, six, not a problem. There's no regulations regarding that. But yes, it would be a problem if you invest or if you open around more than two to three demat accounts for you and only. Okay, Sanskar. Any other doubts? I guess Tushar is trying to say something.
No, sir, all clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tushar. So I've got five responses till now. Uh-huh. Okay, what is bullion? It is actually another word for, you can say, community market. In community market, bullion is a stoppage point that you have to see. So bullion is a way you can invest. Also, bullion is also, you can say, a type of investment that you can do in terms of community market itself. And if I would have to go further in terms of bullion, you can say investing, it would take a longer time period. So I'll just tell you a small brief about it. So bullion is a market where traders trade in precious metals like gold, silver. A bullion market is a place where exchange of gold and silver takes place over the counter in the future market. So what actually is the future market? Okay, so future market is nothing but you bet on a thing. Okay, uh, it is Sanskar and me. We are betting that the price of gold is right now, say, 2000 per, you can say, kg. Just I do not know what the price is, but I'm just considering it. And I say that in the next, you can say, 24 hours, the price for gold goes to 2100, but Sanskar is aware and knows that no, it can go up to 2005, 2050, 2075, but it won't go at 2075. So I put a trade, I put a bet with Sanskar that yes, it would go up to 2100, and if it goes higher than that, that the sum of money I am putting right now, and the same sum of money you have to put in an account, and whoever wins will get that amount at the last right now. So that is actually a future market in which what bullion is known for. So bullion is a type of market in which future trading happens in related to the gold or the precious metals. Okay, Sanskar.
And one more thing, like trading in bullions market is open for 24 hours. Okay, so keep in this mind.
Guys, I've only received five responses till now, and I can see only five responses. Guys, you have more 5 to 10 minutes. Just answer the quiz in next 2 to 5 minutes, because after that we'll be closing the responses also. So please do it as soon as possible. Yes, Sanskar, please ask your question. Okay, to learn about equity and future trading, Sanskar. Yes, there are many platform, many courses out here, which through which you can actually learn about equity and future trading. Firstly, uh, I'll recommend that I will be mentioning my phone number. Just connect with me for this. I will also. I'm thinking of launching a lot of courses in the future also, but for right now, I have many solutions for this right now. For future trading and equity, you could actually go out on Zerodha website. You can learn through that website also, or you have many other platforms which actually offer you courses regarding the same. And for that, you can be in touch with me, and I'll be sharing all the courses that I have with myself. I have around 4 to 5 courses with me, and till now I've completed around 4 courses, and one last one is remaining in terms of that. So please contact me. I'll be sharing my WhatsApp number right now. Aryan, please mention your WhatsApp number so that the participants, if have any questions afterwards, can contact you directly. And nice, only 8 responses. Why is it so? No problem, Sanskar. Do connect with us in the future also. So, guys, right now we will be open with the form for next 5 minutes. We are closing the meet, and after next 5 minutes we will be closing the responses for the form. So please go through this with the form and fill it up so that you all can get an additional certificate that is, you can say, that will be given from our side to you with a special merit line in that. So thank you for attending the webinar, and happy trading.